We're cooking our one simple recipe that's featured in our newsletter every week. This week it is our twist on pasta salad. So this is Alison Roman's recipe. I don't know if you follow her, but I do like her recipes and she has some great ideas. It has a little twist and we'll talk about what that is. I'm not a fan of pasta salad. I love pasta and have it regularly, but pasta salad is just not one of my favorite things to eat typically, but this particular pasta salad has become my new favorite. So I want to share that with you. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Again, I'm Judy Matesky with Athens Nutrition. I am a culinary nutritionist as well as a dietitian. So always bringing you fairly simple recipes with not a whole lot of ingredients that you can pull together. And this is a great summer pasta salad, but it's because of the ingredients, really you could make this pretty much all year round. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and we'll talk about things as we go. First is the pasta. I've got my pasta water going. I'm actually looking at buying a new pasta pot. Anybody have any suggestions, let me know. This one absolutely takes forever to heat the water up. So it's more of a stock pot than I think of as a pasta pot. I think I need something a little lighter weight. So I'm just gonna figure out what to buy. But if you're using one that you love, that's great. This one drives me nuts because it takes so long. But I do have my water boiling. So I want to get going with the pasta, but I want to share a funny story, or well, not a funny story, but kind of something sort of, to me, kind of cute and interesting. This particular brand, Spallini, is a pasta brand that now is available in more supermarkets. Whether it's, I think Walmart might carry it, a few supermarkets now have it. I ordered it online, but I follow a podcast called Flavorful, and Dan Pashman hosts that podcast, and he actually talked about how he created a pasta shape. And this is the one we're using today. It's cascatelli, and it actually stands for waterfall in Italian. And it has an amazing shape, and he really his goal was to create something that was, easy on the fork, absorbed sauce really well. And for me, what I love about this pasta is its toothsomeness. It really has a nice texture to it. It doesn't get real soft. So anyway, this is one of his in the collection. The Sporkful actually has two more. This is Vesuvio, and then this one is Quattratini, which both I love. I've been making this pasta. It is not whole grain, but that's okay. It's made from really good durum wheat as well as semolina, and it has incredible protein. So it's like 7 grams of protein, which some pastas are, it depends on the flour that they're using. The other brand though that I love is Delalo, and again, this is non-sponsored. These are just things that I love. The Delalo brand has a fabulous whole wheat pasta. So if you wanted to do whole grain, great, I love it. But this one I particularly love because I think it tastes great. It's not too heavy in the whole grain if you're not a real fan, but you'll get double the fiber and obviously the nutrients, more nutrients in the whole grain. But regular pasta's fine, so we're gonna use the cascatelli. I'm gonna get it going. It takes about 13 minutes to go. I already have some salted water going here to a boil. I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit now since I've added the pasta. So let me get this going. Let me set my timer to 13. Well, 13 is al dente. For pasta salad, you don't necessarily need it to be al dente. You probably want it cooked a little bit longer because we're not cooking it again like in a sauce like you might do if you're serving regular pasta. All right, so let me get that going. The heat's back up, and I'll just stir that once in a while. All right, a couple of steps in doing this. And again, I don't know, I'm having some problems with my lighting. That happened to me last week, and it's happening again. I think it just has to do with the light that's outside, how bright it is, and how not, the sun goes in and out of clouds. All right, so there's a couple of parts. So we've got the pasta going, and now we're going to do a quick marinated onion. This, I don't know if there's something up with red onions. I don't know. Let me know if there is. I went to 2 supermarkets, sold out of red onions. So there might be an issue with the production of red onions, but they had other onions, but not red. This red onion's better. It gives it more color to the salad. I'm just going to use just a sweet onion that I cut in half. And when you're cutting your onions, I usually leave the root end intact, and then you cut it in half. And then when you're slicing, it kind of keeps everything together for you, just makes it a little bit easier. So it was half of a pretty large onion, and we're just going to do a quick, it's not really a pickle. When you pickle onions, it would take a little longer. This is more just kind of a marinated, quick onion. And as Alison said, and I would agree 100% when she did her video, is that when you pickle onions, red onions, or even regular onions, it's such a great little hack. It just adds so much flavor. And it takes the edge off the onion when you're eating it raw. I mean, you can soak it in water too, that would help. What we're gonna do, this is a really big onion. I'm just gonna add a little bit more vinegar. So I'm using red wine vinegar, about 2 or 3 tablespoons. And then we're just gonna do a little sprinkle of some salt. I'm not gonna add pepper to that. All right, and then give this a little stir, and then I'm just gonna sit this aside. So just in a little bowl, we're just sort of marinating them. The longer they would sit, if you put them in the refrigerator, then they would be considered more like a pickled onion. But this is just gonna be a quick little marinade in some red wine vinegar. I'm gonna set this aside, so that's ready to go for later. Now let's go ahead and get this. Now this is an interesting pasta salad, I think, because basically, we're cooking the ingredients, and that's okay. You know, your pasta salad doesn't necessarily always have to be fresh ingredients or raw ingredients, you know, when you're making a salad. So I love this because what we're doing is we're going to be creating, let me check my pasta here, I got it really boiling. We're going to be creating the dressing we're going to be creating the dressing as a sauce almost, you know, so we're going to be cooking down the tomatoes to really get some great flavor from them. And then we're going to toss the warm pasta into this dressing that we're making. And we'll talk about that when we get to that step. But it's kind of cool. So this is actually going to be the dressing. So it does start with about 1/4 cup of olive oil. And I don't always measure, but for this, because if a couple tablespoons, I don't typically need to measure, but 1/4 cup, and you do kind of want a little bit more because remember, we're using this as the dressing. We're dressing a whole pound of pasta with this. So 1/4 cup is going to go a long way because that's going to be, this is going to be the dressing for the whole pasta dish, all right? So that's about 1/4 cup. And then we're going to, with the garlic, we're using, I'm not mincing it because if you just slice the garlic, it's not as pungent. And again, I think when you're eating a pasta salad, you don't necessarily want this to be overwhelmed with like a raw garlic flavor. So I have 2 large cloves. I already sliced the one, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in. And then I'm just going to take the other one that I have and we'll just slice it down. So you're just cutting it lengthwise in thin little slices. And again, this is a really nice way to keep your garlic from being so overpowering in a dish. I find that I do this a lot now with pasta sauces, and we're just sort of toasting this, the garlic in the olive oil, just a little bit. We don't want to burn it. We want to just toast it a little bit so it will get a little bit brown. All right, so that's just in here, doing its thing in there. It's not going to take very long, so I'm going to start getting my tomatoes ready. So tomatoes, garden fresh tomatoes in this would be fabulous. We are just, our tomatoes are kind of coming and going, and I don't have a ton of them right now on our windowsill. So I'm just going to use one chopped garden tomato because I really want the juice from this to help create the sauce. And then we're just going to use some cherry tomatoes or some grape tomatoes. And with grape tomatoes, you don't always get a lot of juice from them. So I'm going to go ahead and add the chopped tomato from the garden. Just, it was just like a medium-sized tomato, standing back here. Let me turn my heat down a little bit now. I don't want to burn that garlic. So that's going to help, because there's a lot more juice in it. So that's going to help to build this dressing that we're building. All right. So we've got the garlic, 2 cloves of garlic that are sliced in there. And this is, this is the base of a really good pasta sauce too. This is what I typically do, and I'll just keep adding tomatoes. And then, we'll add, certainly some oregano and some basil and things to make a really quick and easy tomato sauce. Now we're going to add 2 containers of, these are like 10 ounces, I think. I think that it calls for almost 2 pounds of tomatoes, but it's not like it's a recipe that you absolutely have to measure. I'm just using the one from the garden. If I had more, I would have used more of the fresh tomatoes, but I want to kind of save them for our tomato sandwiches, so I don't want to use them in the sauce right now. And then I'm just going to take a paring knife, and I'm just going to kind of go through these a little bit, just to put some, just because I want them to break down. So we do want these tomatoes to burst. We're not creating a tomato sauce per se, so these aren't going to cook very long. We are just trying to get them to burst a little bit, wrinkle up, release some of their juices so we get a little bit of sauce from it. And you could cut these in half if you wanted to. I was just kind of being lazy, and I thought I'll just poke them a little bit with my paring knife. That'll help to release it and that'll help to cook them down. Now that I have all that in there, I'm going to turn the heat back up because I'm not, once, you know, initially it was just the garlic and the oil, and if you're at high heat for too long, that could burn that garlic. But once you start adding more liquid from the tomatoes, the juice from the tomatoes, then the garlic's not going to burn now. It's past that point. So, but we do want this to cook. So let's get this. I'm going to get my heat a little bit higher. We didn't salt it yet, so I am going to just sprinkle with a little bit of salt, and I'll do a little grind of. Let me just do a little grind of some fresh pepper. All right. Now, a couple other ingredients that are going in here, and the one Alison calls the secret ingredient. And her secret ingredient is sun-dried tomatoes. And I love it because I've been using sun-dried tomatoes a lot lately. And even my daughter is like, yeah, I kind of forgot about these. They're so good. Why aren't we using them more? And it's true. I don't know. And like, you know, again, I'm stealing this from Alison, but they were really popular in the 80s and the 90s. And now they kind of took back shelf lately, I guess, because we're like thinking, oh, that's kind of a, you know, we've been there, done that. I don't know. I think they're fabulous. They have such intense flavor. I always add some to my pasta sauces. So I just actually made 2 pasta sauces, just one last week and one again this week. And with the fresh tomatoes, I'll just pop in, you know, I'm just cutting these up. No way. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to slice them. You don't have to. We're just trying to break them down into a little bit smaller pieces. So when you're eating your pasta salad, you're likely to get a little bite of the sun-dried tomatoes. And we're going to use, I think it calls for, you know, anywhere from a cup to half a cup to a cup. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be you don't want to overpower the pasta salad with the sun-dried tomatoes, but you want them in there, so you're going to get a little, maybe, you know, some sun-dried tomato with each bite of the salad. So you know they're there, but, you know, they're not really the star ingredient. They're really kind of that secret ingredient that's just adding some background flavor. So the ones I have are just dried. I get them at my farmer's market. They're not in oil. If you get them in oil, that would be great too. Just give this a little stir. That would be fabulous. If you get them in oil, I think what I would do is I would use the oil from the jar of tomatoes to saute your to saute your garlic and these tomatoes instead of olive oil. Just use that. That would be really good. It would have a great flavor. I don't typically buy them in oil. I usually get them because they always have these like this. They're just dried in a container. I always get those just when I'm at the market, and they last forever. I do keep them in my refrigerator, but they do last a really long time. All right, they're going in. So that was anywhere from half a cup to a cup of the chopped sun-dried tomatoes. So let's get that in. My pasta's really going here. It's really going. I can't seem to get it. This burn is a little tricky. Sometimes it's too high or it's too low. All right, so that's going. And then the other 2 ingredients. Now this is kind of if you have it, if you don't, it's okay. If you happen to have harissa, which I always do because I love it and I use it just on so many things, eggs, pasta, whatever. I have it, so I'm using it. If you don't, you could use a little bit of red pepper flakes. I'm not going to use them because I have the harissa, although my harissa is not very spicy. So this isn't a spicy pasta salad, so you don't want it too spicy, but just to give it a little extra flavor. The other thing I think you could do is if you happen to have some chili crunch or some chili crunch oil, you could use maybe a tablespoon of that, depending on how hot it is, and then that would add flavor. But the harissa is just really nice in this. It just adds such a great flavor. So I'm going to add maybe just 2 tablespoons. Again, if you don't have it, you can leave it out. It's fine. Just throw a few red pepper flakes in there. That'll give it some flavor. Or just leave them out together. This is just adding a little more depth of flavor, and I always have it in my refrigerator, so it's going in. And then we're going to add some capers. And I think the original recipe, I take a peek. I forgot how many capers she says. 2 tablespoons. So we're going to go ahead and use the other end of this. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of capers, just for a little kick, a nice little salty kick, a little pickly thing along with those pickled onions. All right, that's pretty much it. There is our dressing. This is the dressing for the pasta salad. And it's creating a sauce. The tomatoes are beginning to break down. And then the sun-dried tomatoes also will kind of start to plump a little bit. Smells so good, all right? you could make this and toss it with the warm pasta. Maybe save a little bit of the pasta cooking liquid. Put the pasta in here. Make sure you go al dente with the pasta. Add the pasta to the skillet, and then a little bit of the pasta water to help keep it, add a little more sauce to it, and then you'd have this phenomenal. This would be a phenomenal just as a warm pasta dish. But we're going to go and turn it into a salad. All right. So just a couple minutes here. We're almost done with the pasta's almost done. So we got 1 minute to go. Then I'll take that off. And then I'm going to go back in with my hands because they are clean. I'm just going to toss the onions a little bit now, with making sure that they're all kind of coated with that vinegar. So they're sitting in that little salt and vinegar solution. I pickle things a lot, but I usually do, if I pickle a lot, I'll do half the amount of vinegar with the same amount of water. So if I'm doing a cup of vinegar, I'll do a cup of water. And then that'll go over whatever I'm pickling, whether it's onions or whether it's cucumbers. I do cucumbers a lot in the summer because we get a lot of cucumbers from the garden. So I'll do that, or I'll do cabbage sometimes. But I usually do the same amount of water as I have vinegar with, maybe like a tablespoon of salt just to get, as the pickling agent. For this, we're just going to go straight vinegar, which is fine because you can do that too. That's an easier way to do like a real quick pickle. All right, so our pasta is done. Let me grab it. I'm just going to dump it because I'm not saving this liquid, the pasta cooking liquid, because I don't need it. Just going to get it going over here on the side. And then let me bring it back over. And this is going to just go right into this is what we're going to do. Okay. Our sauce is done. All right, so let me just turn this off. Here you go. That's the tomatoes with the garlic and the olive oil and the sun-dried tomatoes. Oh, it smells so good. Again, that's the bad thing about these virtual cooking demos. You really can't smell them, unfortunately. All right, so let me clear things off a little bit and get some things out of the way here. And I am going to top it with some chopped basil at the end. If I have time here. The recipe doesn't call for that. You can or you cannot. It doesn't need it. It has so much flavor, you don't. But I think it's just kind of pretty for color and a little bit of flavor. And plus, we have so much basil in our garden, so it's another way for me to use it. And the other optional ingredient is to do some cheese on top. So I'm not going to put feta cheese on, but my feta cheese, I opened it and it was like leaking all over the place. And then it fell on the floor, and the dogs were here, like just before I turned it back there, like trying to get the stinky feta liquid that came out of this package. Anyway, I am not going to put it on top, but normally I would, but I'm just going to kind of keep this dairy free. So you could top it with chopped Parmesan. You could top it with feta, or leave it off altogether. My preference is to not even put cheese on it. I think it's so good and it's so flavorful without. So I'm just not going to, but just to mention that you can. All right, so let's take just a really big bowl, because we have, a full pound of pasta. And this is the cascatelli. It's sfolini, but there's a silent G in there. It's Sfoglini, and this is probably reversed on the camera, but a really great pasta. It is a little pricey, I know, but I don't feel like, even if you're paying, $5.99 for a box of pasta, that's the whole meal, and it's going to feed, 5 or 6 people. So that's still not, to me, it's still, I think, a reasonable dinner, as far as the cost. All right, so you can see this is steaming, and we're going to dress this warm. Everything's going to be warm, and then you can eat it. You can eat it now. I mean, you could serve this as a warm pasta salad, but then it's more just like pasta than it is a salad. But you could, if you wanted this for dinner, that would be great. So we're just tossing it in. But what you'll do is, if you're going to be using this as a salad, you can, let this cool a little bit. And then what you're going to want to do is you'll let this cool and then put it in the refrigerator so it really kind of chills down. And then this is a great pasta dish because it's wonderful to serve at room temperature. It's delicious. It's better at room temperature than cold. So that's what's so nice about it. And again, it's not, if you don't do the dairy, or, even the cheese would hold up, but it's great for like you know, like a picnic or like a summer barbecue, because it can sit out. There's not anything in here that you're really going to be worrying about, because a lot of pasta salads, I don't like them. They're usually stuffed and packed with way too many things. It's always like a heavy mayonnaise-based dressing. Sometimes there's like cube cheese and cube deli meats, and that's just not for me. So this is really more my type of pasta salad. I don't know if it is for you. That's fine, and if not, that's okay. But this is it. So look at that. Is that absolutely beautiful? You can see all the steam coming off. All right. So the only finishing thing is now I'm gonna add. Now these would be pickled red onions, and again, they look so much nicer and prettier when they're red onions. Again, the stores just did not have them, and I Googled it thinking, was there a shortage of red onions for some reason? So I'm gonna toss these in. If they were red onions, because they're kind of pretty, I guess I'll just add the rest of it. And you kind of do want a little bit of that juice from them, because that's nice to add a little bit of the acidity back into it from the vinegar, because we have an olive oil base here, and that just brings a little more acidity to the dish, which is nice. All right, so these would typically be red onions, so this would kind of go with the red theme here that we've got going. And then, like I said, you can top this with some cheese if you want to. I'm going to hold off on that. Parmesan, chopped Parmesan, or crumbled feta would, I think, be my two preferences for that. But because I do have actually, to make it even easier, sometimes when you have herbs and, just grab your kitchen shears and then just chop them on top if you don't feel like using your knife, which I'm not going to do because I got my cutting board kind of covered here. So I am going to just pop in some basil on top. And then the thing with pasta salad, our cold pasta dishes, so isn't that absolutely beautiful? It's like so great. We're going to have it for dinner tonight, I'm sure. The great thing about pasta salads is that not only like this, something like this you can serve room temperature. You could serve this actually warm right now if you wanted to make this an entree, or you could serve it cold. But the other thing is that with pasta salads, that when they get colder, the flavors might be more muted. So you might taste this now and you go, which I will, perfect. It's perfect for me. Some people might say you could use a little more salt. I don't want any more salt, but I might need a little bit more. I might need a little bit more red wine vinegar. I don't think so, because it's really tangy right now. Or it might need a little more seasoning. I'm just going to do a little more brown pepper. When it gets a little cooler, you might need to add a little bit more to bring it back up to flavor. But if you're serving it at room temperature, you probably won't need to. Just because as things cool down, the flavors are more intense when they're warm than they are when they're cold. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so this is phenomenal. I hope you like it. Remember, as always, if you can, please share these videos with friends and family. We're trying to spread the word, get everybody cooking as healthy as possible, but in a very delicious and easy way. So, nothing needs to be really complicated. It just does take maybe some good ingredients. If you have some good solid ingredients, especially something like this when you're cooking in season and there's fresh tomatoes in your garden, or you're getting them from the market, this is like the perfect type of dish to make this time of the year. But because you can use grape tomatoes, you can certainly do this any time of the year. And that secret ingredient of being sun-dried tomatoes, or the little twist on this, the sun-dried tomatoes, obviously, you can find year-round in any market. So let me know if you like it. I love hearing back from you, and thanks again for all your comments. They're super helpful for me. Anything else you might want me to cook, let me know. I do have kind of a calendar that's sort of set up. This month is really going to be pasta month, and again, we're gearing it around our one simple recipe. So if you get our newsletter, every week we feature one simple recipe, and then that same recipe is in our newsletter. The recipe is up on our blog at judymatusky.com. You can go to our website, athensnutrition.com, and sign up for our free newsletter that goes out every week. So we're featuring one simple recipe, and then we want to help you to make it, so that we're cooking it here every Thursday. The weekly recipe. So I think that hopefully would be helpful for everybody to kind of maybe focus on one recipe at a time, because all of us could, feel overwhelmed at times. So anyway, keep an eye out for that. So we will, if you're getting our newsletters, great, thank you. If you want to share those, that would be great as well. And I will be back next week. Yes, I have one more week before we go on vacation. So I'll see you next week with another pasta dish. August was pasta. I love pasta, and I know, a lot of people are so concerned about the carbs. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that next week as to why you probably don't need to. All right, talk to you soon. Stay well.